Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar, Strengthening Advocacy for Your Military and Veteran Members and Their Families, presented by the Defense Credit Union Council, or DCUC, and powered by CU Insight. My name is Linda LaFortune. I'm the Director of Learning and Client Support here at CU Insight and your host for today's virtual event. We have a lot of great information to get to. Just a couple of quick housekeeping items for you. As a reminder, as always, this webinar is being recorded and you'll receive a link to that recording by the end of this week. And secondly, today's presenters are really looking forward to an interactive session, want to answer any questions you may have. So please feel free to enter those questions into the chat box throughout the event, and we will certainly get to as many as we can, and they will follow up on any that may not be gotten to today. So that's all I have for housekeeping. Let's get on to the good stuff and why you are here today. We understand that providing exceptional financial services and support to our deserving military and veteran communities requires intentional communication plans and strategies. We have a Power Pack group here today to share their knowledge and insights on how to effectively advocate for your military and veteran members and their families. We are pleased to welcome Tony Hernandez, President and CEO at DCUC, Dave Willis, President and CEO at Tinker Federal Credit Union, and Jason Sturrock, Chief Advocacy Officer at DCUC. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Jason to get us going.
Thank you so much, Linda. I hope everyone can hear me. I apologize if I sound a little bit like Kermit the Frog. Still getting over one of those nasty summer colds that are apparently more and more common over the past few years. So as Linda said, my name is Jason Sturrock, and I am the new Chief Advocacy Officer for the Defense Credit Union Council, better known as DCUC. Our focus is on providing all credit unions with the information and tools needed to best serve our military, veterans, and just as importantly, their families stateside and abroad. As part of our, and you'll hear us talking more about it, our Advocacy Reimagine program, we're taking our message beyond our normal communication channels and reaching out to you today. There are about 2.14 million people in uniform today and more than 18 million veterans in our nation. This does not include their families. That's a huge opportunity for all credit unions to grow their advocacy and serve these important communities. Many of you might be learning about DCUC for the first time. So I want to give you a brief background on what we do as an organization, namely is to help empower credit unions to serve our nation's active duty members, veterans, and their families. And when it comes to advocacy, specifically, DCUC brings the veteran and military perspective to all credit union issues. We help credit unions advocate for their local military and veterans, regardless of whether they are on or near a military installation. These communities are no longer confined or near military bases. They're intertwined throughout all of our communities across the country. Let's give you a quick statistic. With over 18 million veterans across this country and at least one veteran in every zip code, and there's one veteran member of every credit union across this country. So what is a defense credit union? A defense credit union is any credit union that has military veterans and their families in their field of membership, regardless of charter type or initial mission. So if you're asking yourself, are you a defense credit union, even if you're not near a base or have a large military population in your field of membership? Yes, because you likely have a veteran. Everybody is a defense credit union. We exist to help credit unions speak military, and you'll hear us say that a lot, and support this important segment of the population and their families throughout their entire military life cycle, from basic training through separation, retirement, and beyond. DCU efforts impact more than 37 million members. America's defense credit unions make up nearly a quarter of the entire credit union industry. Credit unions take the overall philosophy of people helping people to the next level. DCUC members are well known for taking care of the military veterans and families from generation to generation. Service members, veterans, and the families face unique challenges. DCU member credit unions are experienced in helping them with specialized services. For example, many of our members guarantee pay during government shutdowns, make paying bills back home easier when you're deployed, assisting veterans who are struggling with PTSD or life-altering injuries, protecting young and junior enlisted service members and veterans from scams, frauds that attempt to rob them of their benefits and their bank accounts, helping military families pay for extra expenses associated with frequent moves, and closing the gap for military families dealing with food insecurity. That's an impressive list of what we're already doing. We have a rich history of providing safe financial programs to help make ends meet. We provide better resources and programs. Let me give you an example of one, the VBBP, or the free banking option. It's the Veterans Benefit Banking Program. The VBBP allows veterans and their beneficiaries to have safer options to receive VA benefits via direct deposit versus paper checks and debit cards. Once an account is established, these veterans also gain access to financial services at the participating credit union, along with other resources provided by DCUC. While a VBBP was originally aimed at unbanked veterans, we have found that existing veteran credit union members have used this program to streamline their deposits. The VBBP is easy to join and a great way to interact with your veteran members. For more information, and I think Beth will put the URL in the chat, it's veteransbenefitsbanking.org/find a credit union. It's incredibly important, especially when you look at the homeless population of veterans that are out there, for them to be able to receive these benefits, and it helps you get another member as part of your credit union. Teaching your members about these special programs and benefits provides further opportunities to serve veterans and show that your credit unions speak military. DCUC offers this information so that each of you, along with prospective affiliate members, can publish this information in your communication channels. We don't care about who gets credit. We care about serving our populations. Here to help talk to us about the unique needs and advantages military and veterans credit unions is a couple of familiar faces with the Defense Credit Union world who do this work on every day in their communities. Let me, as Linda had already said, bring up Tony Hernandez, President and CEO of the Defense Credit Union Council, and Dave Willis, President and CEO of Tinker Federal Credit Union, to talk in depth about how DCUC and specifically Tinker as a credit union reaches out and advocates on behalf of their members. So I'll turn it over to you, Tony.
Well, thanks, Jason. I appreciate the introduction. For those of you who haven't met me, I'm Tony Hernandez, the President and CEO of the Defense Credit Union Council. I'm a retired Air Force colonel after serving 25 years in the United States Air Force, and I came to DCUC directly from the military. I see a lot of what we do in DCUC the same as I did in the military when I was a commander of thousands of airmen, and that was taking care of families so they can get the mission done. In the credit union world, that means the same thing. How do we take care of our members so they can get their job done, they can live their lives, and they can grow their families? And so I see a unique calling. I'll turn it over to Dave. Dave's a good friend of DCUC. Any opening comments, Dave?
Well, thanks, Tony. I think that it's important that everybody understands that Tony comes from a rich military background. The Defense Credit Union Council has a wide variety of veterans that have the experience of having been on active duty and also what it's like to transition to civilian. We actually got to watch Tony transition from active duty into the civilian world and then take on the lead at DCUC. And I think that gives us a unique opportunity and skill sets that's a little bit above and beyond just any of our other associations.
Well, thanks, Dave. It's been a great journey, and let me say, everybody in our community or our corner of the industry is very dedicated to not just their military and veteran members, but all members in the community. And so it's just great serving alongside great CEOs that come from a background. And real quick, Dave, you served the United States Marine Corps, and that says a lot in itself that now you're the CEO of a very large credit union. Any thoughts on your service and how that's translated into the credit union movement?
Well, I think when we have served before and we know what that's like being in the military, I remember wondering why I was being paid at poverty level to serve my country and put my life on the line. But you do that out of love of country and bigger things than just oneself. But when you have served in the military, you have a different appreciation for life, for what it means to be an American. And it gives you some drive. Military and having been in the Marine Corps has taught me to be a different kind of leader, sometimes maybe a little bit stubborn and direct, but we like to get things done for our members and for our communities, and especially for our veterans. So it gives you a different perspective. Once you've walked in those shoes, you understand more what's going on with you, especially with your military members.
Yeah, I think that's helpful coming in, but really, if you just want to serve and are willing to learn about, specific military or veteran issues, I mean, that's what DCUC is for. I kind of want to go back to, to the beginning and what this this webinar is all about. And so I'll ask you, Dave, what do you think it means to be a defense credit union? Just so that other credit unions can answer it for themselves, are they a defense credit union?
Well, I think defense credit unions are those that take an extra step to understand the military veterans, their lifestyles. It's a unique calling, different from the rest of the country, because life in and out of uniform is transformational. From the moment that you go to boot camp until the moment you either separate or retire. Even after the separation, retirement things will always be shaped by your military experience, and that's what shapes your entire life. And understanding how that happens is so important for us. We speak military. I think Jason said this before, but it is important to be able to speak military and understand the challenges and things like products and services that our military members need.
Yeah, that's great. And so, what have you done specifically at Tinker Federal Credit Union in terms of speaking military through products, services, and communications? And also, is there any resources that DCUC has been able to provide for Tinker Federal Credit Union?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I've got my website up over here to the side, and as I scroll down, we have a link that says military benefits. When you click on that, it takes you into the military members site that's very specific. It has a few messages from us and from some of our veterans that are actually employed here. But as you scroll down, we have links to Veterans Home Buying Guide, Understanding Your Benefits Guide, Armed Forces Financial Guide. All of these things, Armed Forces Financial Guide helps them understand financial choices, traps, opportunities, benefits throughout the entire military life cycle. The Blended Retirement Systems Guide. And that one, I think now is also provided in Spanish. We've got the Veterans Guide, Understanding the Universe of Veterans Benefits. And then, of course, the Veterans Homebuyer Guide is just invaluable because, especially with the young families in mid-career in their military, it takes them through the entire experience. And in today's current bustling housing market, high interest rates, it's helpful for military families to understand that looking to purchase their first home or being a veteran for educational resources and be able to leverage that mortgage to finance some of that. It's just a great resource for them. And, you know, quite honestly, as a CEO, I can pick up the phone anytime and give Tony and the team over at DCUC a call. They're always willing to take your call, respond to emails. And when Tony gives you an answer back, you know that he's done his homework and he understands, especially when it comes to military regs, what's in there, how it impacts them, and how that helps us relate back to the bases that have to, that we have to deal with, who's taking care of those members of the military as well.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. We do have a lot of stuff available. Like I said, like you said, the Armed Forces Financial Guide is anywhere from when they get on the bus to head to basic training to the time all the way through, planning for certain death benefits, end of life decisions. So it's the entire military life cycle, including veteran. And then I'll point out the Veterans Guide is unique because I'm a 25-year veteran, and there's veteran benefits that I'm not even aware of that I qualify for. And so it's a great guide for looking at that. And then I like what you said about reading the regulations. It reminds me of a retired Chief Master Sergeant in the Air Force who took me under his wing as a captain. And he always said, Captain, you need to read the regulation, the chapter before, the chapter after, and cross-reference all the stuff. And so, I credit that Chief Master Sergeant in E9, the top of the enlisted structure, for taking the time to teach me that valuable lesson. And so, we'll do the same for our members. You brought up an interesting point, Dave, about speaking military. What ways can credit unions speak military and grow their outreach to veteran and military communities?
Well, so our military groups, they have some very unique challenges. One of them is that they're a very transient group, because when we get the young militaries into our towns, they're not here for a long time, but there's a lot of young military active duty folks out there. And there's a lot of, I'm trying to think of the word that I want to use and be nice while we're on this video, but there's some folks out there that will just take advantage of our young military. And having a credit union there at their base that can advise them, help them talk through the challenges, and they go through life stages throughout their military career. And we're here to help them navigate all of those waters throughout that whole process.
Yeah, especially with the old barracks lawyer, right? I heard from a friend, about this financial incentive or this program. And I think just having a credit union give them that good advice. Plus, a lot of military spouse groups, a lot of misinformation in those groups. And so, yeah, I do think having a credit union offer that is very good as well to do that. Are there some unique needs or challenges of serving, the military or veterans that you've experienced at your credit union? Anything from any different loan approvals or stuff like that, Dave?
So I think it's interesting. That's a good point. A lot of these young guys come in and they're brand new even to borrowing because they have no credit history. They go in when they're 18. They've never had a loan. They need somebody to advise them through the process. We do get some young military guys on base that all they have to do is go to work and then go back to the barracks. And of course, those guys are very eager to go out and buy their first Corvette or do something unique with that funding. But I think it's important that we help them understand that early on in their career, they need to start saving for their future. And we have some great, especially on our military bases, we've got some employees that are like mamas to these young airmen for us with the Air Force or young military enlisted that helps talk to them like mom would. Because once they get out there, they're going to find a lot of people that's just going to talk them into buying something bigger, buying something more. But they need an advisor. And I think as credit unions, we all know that the military does their best to try and financially educate our young troops, but we can be that reliable source for them to help them educate them on how to start a savings account, how to save for the future, how to get that first loan. What do you need to do with your credit to make sure when you get ready to buy a house and start a family that you've got good credit and don't ruin that, and help steer them away from some of those predatory lenders and payday lenders that just are there for a quick buck. So I think advising is one of our best traits for the military.
Yeah, I like that. Talking to them like their parents would, because I think a lot of them just need that guidance, that little push. What about transitioning, from active duty to veteran status? Typically, well, it doesn't matter if you're retiring or not, because you can transition at any time after your first term is successful and you didn't get kicked out. But going from active duty to veteran status, what are some of the unique challenges that maybe a Tinker Federal Credit Union has seen?
I think that one of the most unique challenges that we find when they transition to veteran status is they just don't know what benefits are out there available to them. I think the VA has done a great job in recent years to better take care of our veterans coming off active duty. But, this kind of goes into a little bit other parts of our conversation, but being able to provide these veterans, brand new veterans, with where are the resources, who can they talk to? In our community, we have the Dale Graham Center, which is takes care of veterans. We also have Veterans Corner. We have employees out in those locations that do financial education, but a lot of them have no idea what benefits they have available. We've even talked to veterans that have been out for 20, 30 years and had no idea that some of the benefits were available to them through the federal government and the VA. And they just need somebody that can, as we said before, talk veteran, talk military, and get them linked with the right groups, because those become invaluable, especially as our veterans begin to age out.
Yeah, and one of the things I think we've seen and expressed some concern about are all, like you said earlier, all the scams that are out there.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm happy if you give me all your personal information, I'll fill out the benefit paperwork for you. When really what they're doing is raiding your checking account, of all your savings. And so, I think that's just very, I think veterans just do this stuff. I think a lot of them I think everybody in general looks for that easy button. I think that's where a lot of the fraud comes into play. It's just people are just trusting. And so finding a credit union in the community that understands that and knows where the true resources are, I think is important. So yeah, I thank Tinker Federal Credit Union and really all DCUC member credit unions for being that safety net. One thing I don't think people understand are some differences between, serving on active duty, serving as a member of the National Guard or the Reserve Forces, and then becoming members. Can you, using yourself as a member of the Marines, what are the distinctions between active duty, the Guard and Reserve, and then what it means to be a veteran?
Yeah, so when I was in active duty, and any of the veterans out there, they know this. You're a transient, somewhat of a temporary market individual when you're there. You're in a community for a short time, and you have some unique challenges on active duty because you've got deployments, you got family. As you get into the middle of your career, you may have a spouse and kids back home, and when you deploy, you got to be prepared for that. So there's a lot of very important things that we can educate our military on active duty with to take care of their families when they're deployed, to help them understand what the next steps are as they're transitioning. But then as they transition into retirement, or they go into the reserves, they've now become more of a permanent part of our communities, and they're looking for a place that they fit within the community. One of the hardest transitions for a lot of military members is going from being a military individual to being a civilian, because it's a very different experience. Military life is very structured. Military life is very on the clock to a schedule. And now you have to be responsible in a lot of cases for yourself, for your family, for those that are dependent upon you. So it's important for us to be able to help transition our military members, give them support throughout their stages of their lives. It is very unique and different from going on active duty when you just have yourself to worry about, to happen to transition to that retire. And again, having those organizations within the community that you can help get them in touch with, that can help them with their benefits after they've retired or transitioned out. There's a lot of benefits that active duty military don't realize they're eligible for after separation. Even though they hadn't retired, there is still a lot of benefits available to them. So again, it's really about being an advisor, being parents to these kids. And when I say kids, even when they're in their 30s and 40s and they've started a life and they've got a family and stuff, they've spent their life defending our country. They now need to understand how to manipulate through the jungle of life outside the military, and it can be very daunting. So we actually do a lot of financial education. We do it on bases. We're on 3 different military bases, and on those bases, we provide financial education. We help them plan their retirements. We help them understand basic budgeting. And so we do that along with helping connect them to other agencies that help them find the benefits that they need and they should take advantage of through the VA.
Yeah, that's important. What about Guard and Reserve? Maybe not as transient, but there's some unique things that happen with Guard and Reserve. Can you talk about your experience with our Reserve component?
Sure. Yeah, it's an interesting thing when you talk about the Reserve and the Guard. When I was in the reserves, my wife was pregnant with our first child, and I got deployed for 2 weeks. And that seems like a really short stint, and it is. But when she had to go to the doctor and get examined or whatever, and things were going on, understanding who you can talk to, where you need to go, and honestly, as their credit union, we help connect them to a lot of services. I know we're here for financial services, but at Tinker, we believe that our role within our military is bigger than that. It's broader than that. And with the Reserves and Guard, it's transitional at periods, but then they also need their resources to help be stable when they're back home with their families too.
Yeah, and there's a lot of other challenges that come with the Reserve component, like the Service Member Civil Relief Act. And if people don't know what that is, there's certain protections by law, certain interest rate reductions on all their loans, and that has a lot. You run into that a lot, Dave, at Tinker Federal Credit Union?
Well, so I tell you, it's interesting because when our military deploy, or when the reserves go on active, we choose to already price to the act. That way we don't have to reduce their rates. We just automatically give them that special pricing. So again, on our website, we've got this whole section that is our military rewards for TFCU. And it includes that our loan pricing, our fees and everything are specifically tailored to, if they deploy or if they're home, they're going to get the same pricing, so that they don't have to worry about, is somebody going to take care of us if we deploy. But you're right, they've got the Relief Act and everything else that they can take advantage of. we just choose to price everything so they don't have to take advantage while they're deployed. So
That's pretty cool. I know another thing that happens, with Guard and Reserve. And by the way, Guard and Reserve don't have to be near a military base. They can get mobilized anywhere. So when we talk about, a veteran in every zip code, potentially being a member of every credit union, I think all credit unions need to understand the Service Member Civil Relief Act, but also what happens during that deployment. You get several additional benefits like combat zone tax exclusion, family separation pay. There's hazardous duty pay and a whole bunch of other special pays. And if they're not paying taxes, and let's say, they're putting that money away, a lot of them come home with, sometimes I've heard $50,000 additional. And well, the first thing they want to do is go spend it. Right. And nothing wrong with that. They came back from a deployment away from their family. So why not buy something that's nice? Well, I've always thought it's kind of nice to put some of that money away, at least maybe half of it or something. But have you seen that a lot with people coming back from deployment? And
we do. It goes right back to that first term enlisted military guy that comes back, and he's been on deployment, and that money's just been sitting in savings with his direct deposit. And now it's time to buy that Corvette. So we try and get them before they ever deploy set up for things like making sure they got bill pay set up so that payment's taken care of while they're gone, ensuring their direct deposits up. And then, the other part is educating. And you mentioned this before. We shouldn't just trust anybody to change our passwords or know information about ourselves. So we do also do a lot of education on how to protect their families and themselves when deployed, and protect their confidentiality and their accounts while they're out. Because they're worried about taking care of business as a military member. They're not as worried about having to take care. I mean, they're worried about their family, but we like to try and take that burden off of our military members so that the spouse and the family are taken care of and understand where they can go if they need money, if they need resources. And we do like to think that at Tinker, we take another level. A few years back, we started a program with the military, Home Away from Home, from some of the young airmen that can't have adopted families out in the community. I like to give credit to Mike Clover, our former CEO, for spearheading that, because it really does take care of some of those young troops who, some of these guys they're out in the world for the first time in their life. They've gone right from growing up and being in high school to now I'm in the military and I'm deployed overseas. And they kind of need that resource for themselves on a regular basis.
yeah, that's a great program, Home Away from Home. And I know that's at several other bases as well. But yeah, what a great way to find a sponsor family to adopt a military member, a brand new member, and just kind of give them that oversight, that financial advice that comes with that program. Speaking of young enlisted, and not just enlisted, it's the young officers too. We talked earlier about the life cycle changes that happen. What are some of the things that you've seen young enlisted or young officers need at the very start of their career?
Well, I think to start out, they need some basic financial budgeting planning. These young officers they need a safe place to have their pay deposited. Most want to go out and buy that, whatever it is they're dreaming about, because they've been on deployment or they've been overseas and now they're back home and they want to spend the money. So it's very important to teach basic financial skills so they don't run out and buy that whatever it is they want. I won't even go down that. We already talked about the Corvette. It's always a good time to start a retirement fund at that point in their life because they don't think about it. So helping them think about that. And, there's the DCUC's blended retirement guide. We've got the link right here on our site. And I'll tell you that all these things, we've got that retirement guide. We've got the home buying guide. All of those things are supplied by DCUC, and we have right there on our site for them. And that helps us keep up with the life stages of those members. Our second term enlisted young officers, maybe getting married now, starting a family, there's financial needs that are much different at that point in time. They have to think about applying for leases that are tied to their finances, their service member's spouse. Employment starts to become an issue because they are somewhat transient. And it's vital for having that rainy day fund so they can save for. They need to plan for when are they going to need money if the spouse isn't working because we've just changed duty stations. They get to the mid part of their career and they start thinking about, I'm going to get out soon. I need to get that college degree. I need to plan for the future. I haven't saved any money yet, so I want to buy a home. And we can be a very strong partner for them to get them through those transitions. And at this point in time, quite honestly, the spouse's employment is still out as a challenge. Now they got to think about daycare and childcare, and now saving for those kids' education when they want to go to college. And then it gets all the way up into retirement. What have we done to help them prepare for separation or retirement from the military? A lot of them get to that point and think, man, I should have started saving sometime earlier in my life, but I'm here now. So, and then of course, a lot of our senior career members are looking for jobs and transitions into the civilian world. So helping them find permanent homes, buying professional wardrobes. We don't get to wear our uniforms after we separate and go out into the community. So helping them understand, how to dress professionally once they leave, and having the funds once they separate to have time to do that job search and go through that process so they can transition into retirement or into their next career. A lot of us in the military, we retired way before, or we got out of the way before retirement time came. So having that savings to help them transition is really important.
Yeah, it's that whole life cycle approach. And so, man, you covered that pretty well. I liked how you went, second term and mid-career, and your the senior part of that career, because the needs change a lot. So that's really good. We talk a lot about military families, or being on the base and primarily, but a lot of our credit unions are out in the communities, or where military and veteran families say they don't live on the base or out in the community. How do you make sure that Tinker Federal Credit Union is serving these folks as well?
Yeah, so we have our military-based branches, but we have over 30 plus branches out in the community that we continue to stay in contact. But the biggest thing is, and again, we maybe mentioned this a little bit earlier, I got to be honest, taking care of your military as a credit union isn't really that hard. There's just some very basic fundamentals we always remember. We stay in contact with the outside organizations that service those military members, so they have a reference on a place to go for help. We want to make sure that they're not lost out in the community while everybody else is getting served on base. So we are pretty strong advocates for being out there and involved in everything they get involved in. And we've got a lot of military veterans that work for us, and keeping in contact with them, talking about what they're doing, where they're going, what they do in their lives to keep connected with their former associates, their teammates. We like to get involved in all of those, and our marketing department does a great job of sponsoring events for them. We have educational events, we have just celebration events. We attend the Navy Ball, the Marine Corps Ball, the Air Force Ball. We're out there so they see us a lot, just so that they know that there's somebody that's available. And part of the biggest advantage for us is being that trusted partner, because there's a lot of people that would take advantage of our young military if they can get their claws into them. So we try and be visible and out in the community and engage with them wherever they're at, not just on base.
Yeah, you said something that kind of reminded me of something else, about having a lot of veterans, on the credit union staff, either as, maybe member service representatives, loan officers, working in the marketing department. That's a great source of employment too, because a lot of military come with skills and the discipline, to show up for work and act, act in a professional manner. I mean, that's just a great resource for credit unions. Plus, you also mentioned they also know where to go. I think you go where the members are, right? And whether it's a VFW chapter, a DAV chapter, the Disabled American Vets chapter, or American Legion. I mean, there's a lot of. How else do you does Tinker Federal Credit Union make sure that your staff is prepared, to recognize or say assist a military or veteran member?
Well, so we are engaged. I mentioned this before, but with some of these associations, the VA is a great place and a great resource for our veterans, but there are nonprofit military organizations out there for us. It's Dale Graham, it's Veterans Corner, that a lot of our veterans, it's the the morning coffee group that they always go see on a weekly basis. And then for our employees, we make sure we stay in contact with them as well. And, all these training and other podcasts and stuff that we get through DCUC are great resources for our military employees. It's interesting because as organizations get bigger, we have really small credit unions and really big credit unions. And I think keeping a pulse on your staff and your membership and engaging and being there where they're at, finding them where they are, not forcing them to come see us, is so important that they understand that. And, we take huge advantage of all those resources through DCUC. One of the things that keeps us connected with our members, and when they're traveling, especially at other bases and stuff, is being part of the AFA network, so that they know that they can go use a surcharge-free ATMs and connect to their financials no matter where they're at in the country or deployed or overseas. Just making sure that we have all those resources wherever they're at. They're not necessarily going to come search us out when they have needs. So we need to be out there, and when they do have that need, we become the first mind for them to search out.
That's great. I'm glad you mentioned the Armed Forces Financial Network, because that's been in place since 1985, and like you said, it's everywhere there's a military base. You should have access to that network, surcharge free. And when I think I say AFN, AFFN was the one of the first to do that back in 1985 when Visa and MasterCard didn't come in. So I applaud, Tinker Federal Credit and really all the defense credit unions that are part of that network making the difference. I guess, one last detailed question before we wrap up with some general ones. How often does your staff evaluate your products and services to see if there's any gaps or opportunities?
All the time. So formally, we have like at least once a week, we meet about our rates and products and services. On a quarterly basis, we check products to make sure they're still in line with what our members are needing. Annually, we relook at any of your fees and structures and all that stuff. So, but we're constantly looking at what the needs are for our members. We're talking here about our military members, but we got a lot of non-military members as well. Just like a lot of the credit unions that are hopefully tuned into this today realize that they've got a whole bunch of military members in their field of membership. I think people lose sight of the fact that we're just doing what we're supposed to. But when you talk about things like soldier, well, here I'm aging myself, the Soldier Sailor Act. When you look at those kind of things, they got to understand that they're subjected to those as well. They're not just serving civilians, they're also serving the military. And I got to tell you, what a great community to be serving anyway. I say this all the time about nonprofits, that there's a couple things that really resonate, and it's easy to raise funds for nonprofits. It's puppies, babies, and veterans and the military. So if nothing else, just linking up with your military community gives you some street cred with the rest of the community, that you're serving more than just yourself. You're serving those who serve our country as well.
Final question, Dave. What's been real quick, what comes to mind when I say, what has been your best day at Tinker Federal Credit Union when it comes to serving military and veterans?
It's tough because we've got a lot of veteran employees. We're in that community. But I'll tell you, when we go out and serve, and some of these young military troops don't even realize that these benefits were available to them. My proudest moment here as a credit union is when we formed our foundation, and our mission there is to serve those who served before and ensure that our aging veterans are able to gracefully age in their homes and stay there. And we do dozens of home renovations for our retired military. I will tell you that right now, and I learned this through actually a DCUC conference that I attended, we got hooked up with Purple Heart Homes. Their mission is to allow those veterans to age gracefully in their home. We brought it into our community, and the humility and this is one thing about aging veterans. They don't want help. They don't think they need help from anybody. I'm in the military. I don't need it. But once we do it, oh my gosh, the joy in their hearts when they realize that they can now stay in their home, or the conditions that we see that when we go from a house that's almost non-habitable to something they can live in and move around, wheelchair access. It just makes you proud to serve those who serve our country through a nonprofit organization. And it's grown exponentially ever since we started serving them through our own foundation.
Wow. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Purple Heart Homes. They do a lot of great stuff. And it's not huge home renovations. It could just be a wheelchair ramp, to get them inside the door, or certain stabilization bars in the bathroom, or just or extra lower countertops so they can wheel up. And so it doesn't cost a whole model remodel, but just small things. So I applaud you guys for taking advantage of that, and what a great organization. Well, Dave, thanks again for your time. Thanks again for all that Tinker Federal Credit Union does on behalf of our military and veteran communities, but also just the community in general. And so, I'd encourage those watching this to, either contact us or give Dave a call or his team a call if you want to learn more about things, because we could certainly go on, for a long time. And so, Dave, thanks again for all your support, for being here today, and most of all, for serving those who serve our country.
Well, Tony, thanks for your support all these years, and thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
You bet. All right. Well, I'm going to hand this back over to Jason for a discussion on what DCUC advocacy looks like for 2024. Jason?
Hey, thanks, Tony. And what an incredible opportunity that we got to listen to both you and Dave and talk about how Tinker serves the community in laying out, tips and trainings and the things that DCUC can provide, that even if you've only got 5 or 10 veterans and their families as part of your credit union, that you can help be that financial bridge for new benefits at the VA, or opportunities that they're not taking advantage of. So it was incredibly insightful and important with both you and Dave talking about, and also your, if it hasn't been said, thank you for each of your service. It's incredibly important to remember that, and your guys' continued commitment to having the 6, of all of credit union members across this country. So just wanted to say that, Tony, before I went into the next part of the discussion.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Jason. Appreciate that.
Well, I kind of want to take a little bit of a quick chat, and this is where if you got any questions, please interrupt, ask them. I coined a phrase, when it's something we're embracing here at DCUC, is we call it our advocacy reimagined. Just from my background, if you don't know, if we haven't run into in previous circumstances, I was the Deputy Chief Advocacy Officer at CUNA, which then merged obviously into America's Credit Unions from October of 2021 until this past April. I had the opportunity during some times to serve as the interim Chief Advocacy Officer, and I was incredibly honored to have the opportunity to come over to work on behalf of the nearly 40 million credit union members that are represented by the members of DCUC. I do have my scars in a different way. After spending 8 years up on Capitol Hill, I was incredibly blessed to work for North Dakota's congressman, and then United States Senator Kevin Cramer, as his deputy chief of staff, and handled his economic portfolio and on the banking committee. So I've got the scars up on Capitol Hill, and I'm looking forward to taking them over here to DCUC to help take our advocacy up to the next level. As we talked about, prior to Tony and Dave's discussion, is about that. We bring the credit, we bring the active duty service members and the veterans perspective to all credit union related issues. And there are a lot of ones that we're continually monitoring up on Capitol Hill. We can go start talking again about credit card interchange or the Credit Card Competition Act. Members of Congress on both sides of the aisle in both houses, they're getting continual communications from the retailers and the banking industry and the credit union industry on the thoughts on this issue. What we have been able to is to kind of carve out a very specific niche to be able to talk to them about what passage of the Durbin-Marshall bill would do and its impact on our service members, which has been incredibly effective. And why it's effective is that when you look at the membership of the Senate Banking Committee, Senate Armed Services, and the Senate Veterans Committee, there's a lot of cross-pollination. If you look at Jack Reed is he is the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, also sits on the Banking Committee. You look at Elizabeth Warren, member of the Banking Committee, member of the Armed Services Committee. That is true for Kevin Kramer from North Dakota, Mike Rounds. So that there is a lot of both financial services and armed services issues that are happening at the same time. And those doors that DCUC can knock onto and come at it from two sides to discuss the issue is incredibly vital and important. So we've been in continual consultation and work with all the financial trades to make sure that how the Credit Card Interchange Act or the Durbin-Marshall bill, how its negative impacts on our active duty members of the military, how it would play out to make sure that members of Congress know about that. And it's been very effective in terms of helping slow down that legislation. Obviously, we have worked with our partners, whether it was at NAFQ and CUNA, now in America's Credit Unions, on the Veterans MBL legislation that we've been leading. Obviously, with not many things passing in Congress, we don't know its chances for passage, but we're continually advocating and working with offices to try and get more co-sponsors and movement on the bill. Obviously, if you've been following the news, the large issue that's up right now is the National Defense Authorization Act. It's something that is supposed to have been bipartisan for the past 60 years, been passed, but apparently now it has a banking section, or that the fact that because it is a must-pass piece of legislation, more and more people are trying to, use it as an opportunity to pass bills. And just last week, when they were having a markup in the House Armed Services Committee, we at DCUC got word of a possible amendment that would have opened up the Federal Credit Union Act to provide share insurance fund coverage for non-members. Obviously, it's something that our entire membership has been against, and we advocated against its inclusion in the text of the NDAA. And the amendment was not even brought up because of the quick action of Tony, myself, the entire DCUC team, and most importantly, our member credit unions that got on the phone that afternoon and started reaching out to their members of Congress that sit on the committee. So I think one thing that I think Dave mentioned is that the fact that supporting our military is incredibly important. And what it does is that, as he talked about, I think it was babies, puppies, and veterans, and I'll put active duty members in there, is that every door of Congress will open up to us, so that that ability for us to go in and talk to non-traditional or members that don't normally get touched on financial services related issues, whether it's the Credit Card Competition Act or the fear that might get put into the Farm Bill or any other piece of legislation, that when DCUC makes that call, we can get that meeting, which is incredibly important. And we look forward to working with everybody on this call, our current members, prospective members, and anyone else that wants to be part of this effort to help advocate on behalf of veterans and defense credit unions up on Capitol Hill. So just to kind of pull up a couple of opportunities to join credit unions to join our advocacy efforts. We currently have over 180 defense credit unions. We use them as a single point of contact. DCUC is in the Pentagon and on Capitol Hill. Nobody has our ability to reach out and use the old telephone phrase, reach out and touch someone at the DOD or up in congressional offices, or even over in the executive branch, on these issues. So one thing I'd like to point out is our Military Advocacy Committee is meeting next on June 13th. Obviously, if you'd like to become a member and participate as a part of that, please contact us. We would happily talk about it. And I see Angela has got a question here, and Tony, I'd probably bring this up to you and Beth as well. Can insurance carriers be DCUC members?
Not currently. Right now, we're just looking at, but we do have some affiliate memberships that are available. So willing to take a look at that and run that by our board. I'm not saying no, it's just we haven't done that yet. But I'm one that's always looking for other opportunities. And so, Angela, we'll take a look at that.
Thank you, Tony. And I'm sure that while that issue is taken out, if you'd like to join us as we're continually talking about issues, we'd be happy to have you as part of our advocacy efforts. As I talk about, we have over 180 defense credit unions. We are their single point of contact inside the Pentagon on Capitol Hill. Credit unions partner with DC advocacy efforts, and they follow our leads and our updates. We encourage them to write their senators and representatives. We work with them on how to respond to current legislation and regulations that directly impact your credit union's ability. I think one thing that kind of is overlooked is we have a sweet spot, and also with our regulators in terms of our ability to sit down with the NCUA, to sit down with the CFPB, and bring that unique impact of their decisions that and the impact that they would have on our active duty servicemen and women, their families, and our veterans and their families as well. You know, and I don't want to repeat kind of some of the things that Dave and Tony talked about. You know, continually reaching out. We have great tips just to talk to us about how to reach out into different communities in your community to make sure that anyone who is a part of your current membership that is a veteran or active duty, that you know about them, that they're getting all of their questions answered, and to kind of highlight once again, we help speak military. It might not be something that is normal for a bank loan office, a loan officer, or someone who's not had experience working with the VA or the DoD or their policies. We can help bridge that gap to ensure that when somebody walks in and has these questions, that they're ready and available to have that there. So, kind of just some of our member benefits laid out here. From our veterans guide, understanding the benefits to the entire life cycle. We provide these in Spanish, the veteran home buying guide. I don't want to repeat what Tony and Dave effectively laid out, but this is an incredible opportunity and resource that we look forward to providing and working with you. If you're a current DCUC member or would like to become a DCUC member or just need help talking military to your community, we're happy to help make that happen. So there's one other issue, we kind of wanted to talk about, or just some highlights that you may or may not have heard of. Obviously, there are rumors floating around Capitol Hill right now that there will be an effort to introduce legislation that would put CRA requirements on credit unions. From our understanding, it would be on credit unions of a certain membership threshold of around 100,000. We're working to confirm that. But obviously, we're going to be up there advocating strongly against this type of legislation, because obviously, as democratically elected institutions, we know how best to serve our members, and we've seen that over and over before. So we're going to continually work and make sure that our members of DCU see their voices heard on Capitol Hill, but also ensure that the veterans and the active duty service members of the military, their views and the impact they have on all credit unions are heard up on Capitol Hill. So Tony, I turn it back over to you. I know we have only a few minutes left. Happy to answer any questions about what's going up on Capitol Hill. But I just wanted to thank everyone for this opportunity for us to share a little bit more about DCUC. You got here how to get in touch with us. I think one of the most important things that Dave had referenced is the fact that when you pick up the call or you send an email, you get a response real quick back from DCUC, because we know it's your time is incredibly important. And we want to make sure that we are here to serve you as you are serving your members and their families. So Tony, I'll turn it back over to you if you'd like to wrap up. And thank you for this opportunity.
Well, thanks again, Jason, for all you're doing. Glad to have you on board. And, it's been, right away, the first couple of weeks that you've been working with us, it's been busy, especially the news that dropped about the Community Reinvestment Act yesterday, and taking a look at the bill language and where we're going with that. I like how you said earlier that any credit union issue, we can always spin a military or veteran impact from that, either a good impact or a negative impact. But the main thing is that we provide that voice in Congress. And like Dave said, babies, puppies, and military veterans is always a good selling point. And I like it because it's bipartisan. Angela, we'll answer your question. I saw you chatting with Beth in the chat room, and I liked your question, so I appreciate that. I always like being surprised by something I wasn't expecting. So kudos to you for doing that. And again, I want to thank Dave Willis and Tinker Federal Credit Union for joining us today. They're one of many credit unions out there that are serving our military and veteran communities, and virtually any one of them can do lots of great things and are willing to help you out, along with DCUC in learning how to speak military or speak veteran. And then finally, I want to thank all those who joined us today. We here at DCUC hope that you leave this time, armed with a deeper understanding of the unique needs and challenges of our military and veterans, primarily so that your credit union can establish yourselves as a trusted financial partner for not just our military heroes, but in the community as well. And I like how Dave put that, even though it might not be a financial related issue, they come to you for advice because they trust you. And then I want a foot stomp, and that's a military technical term for pay attention. And so I want a foot stomp. If you have any questions about what we discussed today, please do not hesitate to reach out to DCUC. We're always happy to continue this dialogue, and we're always willing to answer that. And we will get back to you as soon as we can. I like to keep short timelines because that means there's less that I have to circle back and potentially forget. And so we do try to keep to that. Again, I want to thank everyone for being here. We would not be able to do it without the expertise of our panelists, so Jason and Dave Willis. So thanks again. And most importantly, thanks to CU Insight for hosting us and running everything behind the scenes. Linda, I don't know how you do it, because I'm busy, flipping between screens and make sure I stay on message. So well done. But I want to thank everybody once again. So Linda, I'll hand it back over to you for any admin remarks concluding this presentation.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Tony. And you all definitely do the hard work. So I want to thank everyone who joined us today. Of course, all the panelists, Dave, Tony, and Jason, just fantastic information on such an important topic. We certainly appreciate everyone's time joining today. As a reminder, you'll receive a copy of the recording by the end of this week, or a link to the recording. And we hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day. This concludes the presentation on strengthening advocacy for your military and veteran members and their families, presented by DCUC. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.